Sorry guys, I'm trying to get it up. The document here. Okay. You can start my time. You can start my time now. Okay, so we have here the argument that only God is eternal. Okay? Only God is eternal. Nothing besides God is eternal. You guys claim that the Quran is not created. The Quran is not created. If it's not created, therefore it is eternal. And as we said before, nothing is eternal except God. So therefore the Quran is God. So I have a question for you guys. Do you indeed claim that the Quran is not eternal? Or sorry, do you guys indeed claim that the Quran is eternal? That the Quran was never created? If that's the case, then it's eternal. So how do you explain this syllogism? Go on. I'll give you guys my rest of my time.
All right.
Okay, are
Shadi, I
we
think
supposed
you came a bit
to
late,
answer
man,
that
but
question?
تفضل Abu Al-Abbas, all yours, man.
Okay, first of all, we don't claim the Quran is eternal. That's your interpretation of our stance. The point is, what you're claiming actually goes against the reports that your sheikh, the guy that spoke in Arabic, presented, where Musa al-Kadhim and Ja'far al-Sadiq both assert that the Quran is not created. At the same time, it is not eternal. It is muhdath. And they use the term muhdath. So you're presenting a false premise that everything that is muhdath is created. You need to prove that. Because we know in logic that everything that is created is hadith. This is known. However, anything that is muhdath is not necessarily created. So you're the one who has the burden of proof upon him to justify your premise. And please don't appeal to common sense. That's all I have to say.
Okay, are you done? Okay, so he says that the Quran, he quoted a hadith from the Imam, or the Imam says that the Quran is muhdath, not makhluq. The meaning of makhluq here is, when you apply it to the Quran, the meaning is it is not fabricated. The Quran, you can't, meaning it's a linguistic word, you cannot apply it to the Quran. Anything which is eternal is not muhdath. Okay, so if we go back to the syllogism here, only God is eternal. Okay, so the second premise is the Quran is eternal, therefore the Quran is God. Do you guys say yes or no? Do you guys state the Quran is eternal? If you say it's not eternal, then it must have originated. It must have been muhdath. So I have a question for you. Is the Quran muhdath? Yes or no?
Okay, should I talk?
Please go for it.
Okay, Bismillah. You didn't really address the point I made up, and you basically deflected it with your claim that the Imam meant that it's not a fabrication. Well, we can go ask any person who's fluent in Arabic, and they can say otherwise, because that's the apparent meaning, and you have to provide actual evidence that was the Imam presented. You cannot merely deflect a point and interpret the hadith according to your own theology. We have two reports. Musa al-Kadhim said it is not created and is not eternal. And Ja'far al-Sadiq also says we don't adopt any of the stances. We believe that the Quran is muhdath and it is not created. So I will stick to what our scholars say and what your imams have said as well. And I'll just respond with that. And again, you are falling into a wrong generalization. In mantiq, we know that everything that is created is a muhdath. Yes, it has a starting point. However, every muhdath is not necessarily created. You have not provided proof for this. Again, you're the one trying to make an argument. So the burden of proof is on you, ya habibi. That's all I have to say.
So as you can see, he didn't answer the question. I asked him clearly, is the Quran originated? Muhdath. He didn't answer the question.
It is.
Is the Quran muhdath? Is it originated? He didn't answer the question. He didn't say. He didn't say is the Quran eternal? Yes or no? He said no. The Quran is not eternal. Fine. If it's not eternal, then it is muhdath. It is originated. So he didn't answer that question. So next time you speak, I would like you to answer that question. According to the linguists, when you apply the word makhluq on kalam, it means mukhtalaq. Every single, look at any linguist you want. This is what the word means. Linguistically, when you apply it, it's even in the Quran as well. If you look at the Quran, the same word is used for fabrication. So that is why the Imam said muhdath غير مخلوق, because he was referring to the linguistic meaning. And number 3, we do have a narration where the Imam says that the Quran is created from from Al-Hadi alayhi salam, where he mentions that the Quran, that Allah is Al-Khaliq and everything besides him is makhluq. This is what the narration. So yes, we do indeed have a narration where it says the Quran is created, and we did indeed have a narration where it says the Quran is muhdath and not fabricated. So I asked the question again, brother, is the Quran originated? Yes or no? If it is not originated, it is eternal. If it is eternal, it is not originated. You guys are not really following through with the argument. So go ahead, answer this question.
Just a very quick point, guys. Excuse me, guys. I would appreciate it if, when we, quote narrations, we would provide a screenshot, or at least not necessarily provide a screenshot, at least provide a reference, so that the rest of us could look it up, or the folks back at home could look it up. All right?
The hadith was in the video, my friend. You're refuting the video. Why didn't you look at the video fully when you were refuting us?
معلش حبيبي. Now the people who are watching,
you make an entire video without research.
Listen, bro. The folks now that are watching this video are not necessarily folks that have seen your other video, and they want to know now what you're quoting, right? So I don't think I'm asking something that's too much for you to just provide a reference. And it's not just for you; it's for Abu Al-Abbas as well.
No problem. If you guys can take if you guys don't believe me, you guys can simply look up the narration.
No, I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but I mean,
it's in the video. I really don't want to go through and search it. It's there. It's a famous hadith. I'm not lying. You can look at the video.
Shadi, this is not. I'm not like picking on you or anything, man. I'm just saying that.
So, anyways, let's go back to the debate. So,
sure.
Abu Abbas,
go for it.
Is the Quran originated or is it eternal? Go ahead.
Okay, before I answer the question, I need to address some points you made. The best thing that can be said about the case of the reports I presented is that there's contradictory reports regarding the matter. And in that case, there's a qaida in hadith. If there's contradictory reports, then both of them collapse because they're contradictory. With that being said, you still have not provided evidence why makhluq in the report of Ja'far al-Sadiq and Musa al-Kawim means to lie. Again, you said, oh, you can go to any other linguist, and it's used in the Quran multiple times. Well, I'm going to challenge you over here and ask you to present to us, first of all, an example in the Quran where makhluq is used in that sense. This is one thing. And I'm also going to ask you to show why we should prefer your interpretation over the also other viable meaning of khalaqa, which can mean to originate or to create from nothing, as mentioned in Taj al-Arus in one of the most famous dictionaries in Arabic. So that's one thing. And you cannot just deflect it by asking me other questions, okay? To answer your question, I will say, just as Musa al-Kadhim said in the hadith, and just as our scholars say, that the Quran is muhdath, but it's not makhluq. It has a starting point because Allah spoke it to Jibreel alayhi salam, but that does not mean that it's not created. So no, the Quran is not eternal, and at least I would like you to admit that you misrepresented our stance on the matter. I think I've answered your question.
No, I did not misrepresent your stance on the matter. According to Ahl Sunnah, they say that the Quran is eternal. And now you're telling me that it's muhdath, it has a starting point. What are you talking about?
Who's
if you say something is eternal, wait, let me finish. It's my time. Let me speak. If you say the Quran is eternal, then how can it have a starting point? You're saying, oh, you're misrepresenting our case. Well, are you a Sunni or what? I don't get. Who are we debating here? You guys say you're Sunnis, that you're Salafis. Oh, sorry, I'm not gonna say Salafi. I'm just gonna say Sunni. You're gonna say you're Sunnis. Now you're telling us the Quran is not eternal anymore. So let me tell you something then. Let me show you my screen. Can you guys see my screen?
Yep.
Okay. This syllogism here then is accurate, because if only God is eternal, and you say the Quran is eternal, and then the third premise is true, that the Quran is God. I did not use the word created here in the syllogism. You talking about logic, yet you made a huge mistake. Where did I use the word created here? Do you see the word created here? I did not use the word created. So then how are you using the hadith from Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq, where he says the Quran is muhdath ghayr makhluq? You cannot use it here. This is a valid syllogism. You have admitted that the Quran is indeed muhdath, not eternal. If Ahmed ibn Hanbal was here right now, he would be crying. He would be very upset with you, my friend. Shall we go to the second argument? We will
Are
leave.
you done? Are you done, Shadi? You still got a minute and a half.
I need to respond. Okay.
No, I'm going to give it to Abu Abbas. Go ahead. You could take as much. You could take the 3 minutes. Go ahead.
All right, Habibi. All right. Okay. You act like you're shocked that I bring up the word makhluq. You're the one inferring my stance, right? You say Ahlul Sunnah believe the Quran is not makhluq, which is correct. I'm not denying that. Then from that, you yourself interpret our stance to say that the Quran is eternal. I've shown a quote from Ibn Taymiyyah, two quotes actually, two portions in his book, Al-Fatawa, Majmu' al-Fatawa by Ibn Taymiyyah, where he states, none of the Salaf, none of our predecessors claim that the speech of Allah is eternal. Okay? That's why I'm calling you out. You are basically interpolating my own theology and then attempting to hold me to the standard of your understanding. So, your syllogism is invalid. None of our early scholars actually claimed the Quran was eternal. And there's no need to play around with the facts and hide them. You know, that's all I'm saying. You know, it's nothing complicated. I'm not bringing stuff out of my pockets. You're the one who is assuming our stance is that the Quran is eternal because it is not created. And I've told you, just because something is muhdath does not necessarily mean that it is eternal. Okay? Just because something is muhdath does not mean that it is just because something is muhdath does not mean that it is created. Okay? And then you move on to say that, okay, you say it's not created, that means it's eternal. So that's what I'm saying. And you're tripping. So there's no need to make it seem like I'm making stuff up over here. That's all I have to say. And it's an invalid syllogism. Wallahu ta'ala alam.
Shadi, just a quick question. Did you accept?
Okay, let me respond to that point, and then you can
accept that.
Let me respond to you.
From Abu Al-Abbas. Shadi, do you accept that he? Do you accept what he quoted from Ibn Taymiyyah, or do you call that, or is that an inaccurate quote?
My answer to that, your question to what I'm about to say is actually irrelevant. Okay. So I'm going to go on. It's fine. Okay. If you want to leave the says that, it's fine. First of all, you contradicted yourself. You said that just because the Quran is muhdath doesn't mean it has to be created. Okay. So why don't you say it's muhdath and created?
Should I answer that?
Abu Abbas.
Yeah. Should I answer your question?
Just because the Quran is muhdath, it doesn't mean it's created. So you're saying that it is both or only one of them? That's my question to you. I'm not done with my speech, but I just want you to give me a quick answer.
No, we say it is muhdath and it is not created.
Why don't you say it's created?
Because that's our theology.
Okay, explain your theology to me. Why isn't it created?
Are you done with your time, Shadi?
Let him answer.
Well, I'll just say there's no evidence to show that it's created from the Quran or the Sunnah of the Prophet.
What do you mean? There's no evidence. Allah says in the Quran, right? Everything besides Him is created. Everything besides Allah is makhluq. Allah is al-Khaliq.
What are you referring to?
Khalaqa kulli shay.
Okay.
Allah says, I created everything. Okay.
Well, I don't believe the text is created. That's my whole point. It doesn't
Habibi, is the Quran something? Is it something? Yes. Allah says, I created everything. So there is evidence from the Quran where the Quran is created. So I have a question for you. If you say it's muhdath, then why don't you say it's created as well?
خلق كل شيء.
Let him finish. Tayyib, are you done?
I was saying it in a mocking, sarcastic way, but okay, go ahead.
Okay. There's a fallacy.
That's my first question. Let me continue. Let me continue with my
Oh, I thought you were done.
No, I was asking you a question. So let me one more. As Ahmed
excuse me, guys. Excuse me. Let's not do this any question within my time. Let's not do that because it's becoming messy. All right, Shadi, you got 3 minutes.
Okay. 3 minutes, Shadi. So he said that Ahl Sunnah doesn't believe that the speech of Allah is eternal anymore. Did Ahmed ibn Hanbal believe it? That the speech of Allah is eternal? Yes, he said the Quran is eternal. The Quran is the speech of Allah. So the syllogism here by the way, you're wrong. The Sunnis do believe the Quran is eternal. You're quoting Ibn Taymiyyah incorrectly, but you're quoting him correctly, but that is not true. Ahl Sunnah do believe the Quran is eternal, but okay. Ahmad ibn Hanbal, who is the Imam of the Sunni Aqidah, he states that the Quran is eternal and it is the speech of Allah. So, my friend, I have a question for you. Does this?
Where's the quote?
Ahmad ibn Hanbal, he said this, that okay, if you don't believe the quote is correct, then then have the Sunnis, you guys gather around together, and you guys agree on what you believe. Because honestly, whenever you guys say, "Oh, I'm a Sunni," and we address a point, you say, "Well, you know what? I'm not a Sunni on this point anymore." That's what you guys.
What's the reference? What's the reference, Shadi?
I have a question. If indeed Ahmad ibn Hanbal says that the Quran is eternal, by the way, there was a huge fitna. Over Ahmad ibn Hanbal saying that the Quran is eternal. Now you guys are saying he never stated that? What are you talking about? It's a huge historical event. You're coming here and telling me now that Ahmad ibn Hanbal never said that? What's wrong with you? It is a very famous event. So I have a question. This syllogism applies to him. He says the Quran is eternal right here. Okay? Only God is eternal. This is the first premise. Therefore, I have a question. Does Ahmad ibn Hanbal believe that the Quran is God? That Allah sent himself down on earth? Okay, so that's my question for you. Please don't say, "Oh, we don't believe this anymore." Oh, okay, you don't believe the muhdath. You believe that it's muhdath, not makhluq. Okay, tell me why. Tell me why you don't believe it's not created. Go ahead.
All right, Bismillah. So he made several points I want to address. First of all, before you start assuming your code is right, let's bring it. Let's look at it in Arabic. Let's see the source. Let's see if it's actually an authentic source, first of all. And then we can, build our discussion on it. But you cannot just simply throw your code at us and then get mad when we ask you for evidence. That's point number one. Point number two, you actually mischaracterized the mihna, or the inquisition that happened during the time of Imam Ahmad. The inquisition revolved around the issue of whether the Quran was created or not. The eternal essence of the Quran, or the non-eternal essence, is an implication of that debate. But the actual matter was whether the Quran was created or not. And Ibn Hanbal simply asserted that it is not created, it's the word of Allah. Right? Again, you are falling into actually a fallacy. And it's called the no true Scotsman fallacy. And it's basically when I present to you an evidence, from one of our biggest scholars, who was Ibn Taymiyyah, and you say, "Oh, no, this is not the Sunni stance. This is not the right Sunni stance." Okay, you're saying I'm lying over here. At least I've presented a quote from the Sunni scholar, Ibn Taymiyyah, who says, None of the Sunni predecessors ever claimed that the speech of Allah, the actual text, is eternal in nature with Allah. I think this is a very big generalization. It's a big claim, and I'm quoting him from Majmu' al-Fatawa, and I showed it in my video. And you know what? I can screen share it right now, but it might take some time. So please get your facts straight. That's one thing. Second thing is, you're the one trying to make the argument that my belief regarding the Quran is polytheism, right? So you're the one who has the burden of proof, okay? You cannot try to make a case against me by asking me questions. Make your case, and let's evaluate your argument. And that's what you did in your previous video. You presented a bunch of syllogisms, and we showed the problems in them, and how you actually misrepresented the stance of Ahl Sunnah. And I actually got a quote, which now you're claiming is not representative of Ahl Sunnah. Okay. Make your case, and I can address it. The burden of proof is on you. I'm not the one making claims over here. You are. Do you get my point? Jazakallah khairan. That's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you, brother. So they agree with the Shia that the Quran is muhdath, not makhluq. You guys agree with us on this. So thank you very much for the discussion. You guys say that the Quran is not eternal. That's what we were trying to prove, and you've shown that our stance is correct. So you didn't refute any. And by the way, the syllogism is indeed, in fact, absolutely valid. Okay, just because you disagree with the premise, this points still follow. The points do follow. You cannot reject the way the logic is in this syllogism, nor can you reject the premises. Only God is eternal. We all agree. But you just disagree with the second point. However, if you did agree with the second point, it would have followed. Not that the syllogism itself is invalid. That's a difference there. Then he said, I misrepresented the mihna. He said it was about whether or not the Quran was created. That's what it was about. Then he said that Ahmed ibn Hanbal said it is not created. Habibi, if something is not created, then it is eternal. If something is not created, if something did not have a starting point, it is not eternal. The definition of the word makhluk during the time of this inquisition was whether or not the Quran had a beginning or an end, not whether or not it was fabricated. You're taking another issue and putting it here. No, the inquisition was about whether or not the Quran had a starting point or not. Ahmed ibn Hanbal said himself, the Quran is not created. Therefore, he did indeed, in fact, affirm the belief that the Quran is eternal. Whether or not he knows that, that's another issue. Whether or not Ahmed knew that he was affirming the Quran is eternal, that's another issue. The point is, if you say the Quran never had a beginning, you are saying the Quran is eternal and is eternal with Allah. And that is all I wanted to state. Thank you for the discussion. I don't think we have anything
some questions, if you don't mind. Yeah, you asked me a bunch of questions.
Thank you guys very much for the discussion.
Where are you going, Shadi? Where are you going, Shadi?
I want to ask you some questions, bro.
Okay, but
stick around, man, just for a few minutes.
Actually,
I think it's unfair. I think it's unfair for you to come and to interrogate us without us having a chance to ask you some questions.
That's all I wanted to argue. I've given you guys all of my time. I appreciate everything. May Allah guide you guys to the right path. May Allah show you guys the right way. Shamrani Habibi Khosha Ahmadida. Welcome. Did I say it right?
Answer the questions, are you?
Did I say it right, Hassan? Allah. No, the people, listen, the people who are watching this can determine who is correct in their argumentation and who is incorrect. Let the people decide.
Right?
Let the people decide.
It's enough, Akhi.
Anyways, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. God bless all of you. Salam.
You have to learn the language of your religion much better.
SubhanAllah. Here's the thing. I wanted to ask him some questions and call him out on the essence of Allah, the knowledge of Allah and whatnot, but he immediately got off. I think he sensed that I was going to ask him some hard questions. Allahu Alam.
Because I need to leave, let me comment something quickly and then I'm going to leave, then I can have some little fun.
Bye-bye, Shadi. You guys should check out the comments